Now we move on to where the clubs are sitting. So I really want to mainly focus on a number of clubs. These ones are the ones that have, been in the news recently, how they're looking in the future. So I'm going to point out a couple of clubs. So we've got Western Bulldogs, we've got the Suns, the Roos, the Pies and the Cats. So they're the main clubs, the main 5 clubs that we're going to focus on today. I'll start with the Dogs. There's no other way to put it. They are in dire straits at the moment. They're inconsistent. We've heard on the news and the headlines about Beveridge being the issue, and I couldn't agree more. This isn't a dig at him. It's just, I don't know if you could ask for a more stable and classier list than the Dogs have right now. They've got Adam Chalor averaging 29 disposals. He's elite. They have Bontempelli, who is the favourite to win the Brownlow, so not a lot more to be said there. Libba, who averages 27 disposals. You've got Jack McRae, he's a rising star winner, 3-time All-Australian. You've got Bailey Smith. We know the impact he can have. We've got Bailey Dale. He's an All-Australian. They've got Caleb Daniel, one of the best kicks in the comp, and they have Tim English. Like their list, you could not ask for a better list, and yet they fall short to a team who could not be in a worse possible position than the Eagles. I feel as if they need Beveridge out of there right now before it gets worse. It's going to be interesting whether they continue with him and how he will really coach them, and whether the Dogs will succeed with the future. He is probably knocking on the door of being sacked, and I would not be surprised. But it's going to be very interesting with the Dogs how they... if they will sack him, who will they get? And I feel like if you want to coach any team, it would be the Dogs, because you've got so much to work with. As I said, I listed a few players there, and you can build a system that really makes it hopefully successful for them. But they've tried Beveridge. Yeah, he won in 2016, but he hasn't done a lot since. And I would not be surprised if they get Beveridge out of there soon. So not really good signs for the Dogs, but we move to Gold Coast Suns. There's a bit of positivity. There's a bit of fire starting to spark on the Gold Coast. They have Dimmer as their coach now. It's exciting times to be a Suns supporter. He's a 3-time premiership coach. They nearly knocked off one of the favourites to go all the way in Carlton. So hopefully, in a Suns point of view, he'll do some good things up there in Queensland next year and the years to come. And he already mentioned that they have some quality players. He said they're 80%. They already have 80% of the players to produce a premiership. They've got Miller, Flanders, Rao, King, Charlie Ballard. So it's big news for the Suns, and they do have a quality lineup. They just need a quality coach to get the job done, and Damien Hardwick is the man to do so. We go to Arden Street, North Melbourne now. So North, they're currently sitting last. It doesn't sound like a good thing, but I don't think I've heard or seen North fans happy as they are right now. They are in the box seat to get the best kid in the country in the blue and white in Harley Reid. They're not a quality team at all. They were promising at the start of the year, but just say they get Reid. I want you to listen to this star quality young lineup. All right, so you got Harry Sheasel, George Wardlaw, Will Phillips, Luke Davies-Uniacke, Jai Simpkin, Harley Reid, and of course, if they get their pick 2, they'll have Riley Sanders. So North Melbourne supporters, that would just be music to the North Melbourne faithful's ear, that lineup. That is really, really young players that are really, really skillful, but they'll only be able to get the pick 1 and 2 if they give Ben Mackay to Essendon. So he'll probably go to Essendon, but I feel like that's a good win for North Melbourne. They're obviously looking into the future. Pick 1 and 2 would be crucial for them, and I think they're going to get it. So I know you're finishing last, but it's bittersweet in a sort of way. They'll get the wooden spoon, but they'll get Harley Reid, and sort of exciting times, but sort of not. As we head to Collingwood now, so they've had a subpar end to the season. They've been hit with injuries. Nick Dacos, then Darcy Moore, then DeGoey, and Bobby Hill as well, and now Nathan Murphy with a back issue. These are like players that are like big players, so they offer so much to the Collingwood Footy Club. Heading into finals, it is crucial to get these players back, or else they may not even be favourites to hold the cup at the end of September. They have a system. Craig McRae's done so much for them. You can't control injuries. It's just pot luck in the end, and Collingwood have not had it in the end of the season. Nick Dacos is expected to come back, but they really need their players back if they want to have a solid chance at holding the cup at the end of September. So, that's really the only issue for Collingwood injuries-wise. And lastly, the Cats. We know we've heard questions, is it the end of an era? Are they in shambles? Well, we've heard so much news from so many different people. I feel like, in my personal opinion, the Cats, they're sort of on the edge of avoiding a rebuild, but also sort of staying where they are, sort of being successful. So they're either, whatever decisions they make in this preseason really differs whether they're going to be a really, really poor team in the nicest way possible, or quite a successful team like they have been for decades. We know they're quite an old team. There will probably be more retiring players to come. In fact, today I heard Jonathan Segler is retiring, so he's one of them. There'll be probably more to come also. So, as I said, the off-season is critical for the Cats' future. Chris Scott and his men, they've got to put pen to paper and start fixing this before it turns into something really embarrassing. You don't want to be in a rebuild and go straight into suffocating humiliation, I guess you could say. They've lost to the Giants at home. They lost to the Dockers at home. Now to the Saints. Being reigning premiers, it's a little alarming. But yeah, this preseason is so crucial for the Cats if they want to be a quality side or end up in the doldrums. Now that's sort of how I've covered where the clubs are sitting. I've covered a couple of clubs that really are the main main parts of the AFL at the moment. So we'll now go to the race for the Brownlow.